Imagine waking up in total darkness, your body a lead weight you can't lift, tubes snaking down your throat, machines beeping like distant alarms in a world you no longer recognize. You try to call out, but no sound comes. You try to move, but your limbs won't answer. Panic floods in waves because you have no idea how you got here, how long you've been here, or if anyone even knows you're still alive. That moment, helpless, blind, voiceless, alone, is the exact nightmare that still wakes me up sweating years later. I was 14 when it happened. My home wasn't a safe place. My parents were deep in addiction, the kind that turns every dollar into smoke or powder and every promise into a lie. Food became optional. They'd disappear for days, coming back glassy-eyed and empty-handed while the fridge stayed bare. I learned to live on whatever scraps I could find: stale cereal, half-rotten fruit, sometimes just water. Eventually, even that ran out. I got sicker gradually at first. Weakness settled into my bones. My stomach stopped growling and started cramping in sharp, constant waves. I lost track of days. I remember begging once, actually dropping to my knees and pleading for just a few dollars so I could buy something, anything, from the corner store. My voice cracked. I hadn't eaten solid food in almost a week. The only calories I'd managed were from cheap freezer popsicles I'd scavenged from the back of the freezer. The answer was cold and casual. No, it's not worth it. I cried myself to sleep on the floor that night because the couch smelled like mildew and vomit, and I couldn't stand it anymore. I remember thinking, very clearly, that I might not wake up. Then everything went black. When consciousness returned, it wasn't gentle. I surfaced in a hospital ICU, intubated, restrained by 4 lines and monitors, unable to speak or swallow. Doctors later explained I'd vomited blood. Severe malnutrition had torn my stomach lining, caused massive internal bleeding, and sent me into shock. They'd found me unresponsive at home, rushed me by ambulance, and placed me in a medically induced coma to stabilize me. I'd been under for almost 2 weeks. The first real memory is terror in the dark. Hospital lights were off at night, except for the faint glow of monitors. Shadows moved on the walls. I couldn't turn my head. I couldn't call for help. Every breath felt borrowed through plastic. I kept thinking someone would come, anyone, but the room stayed empty. Hours blurred into days. I drifted between sleep and a hazy half-awake state where I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or dying. My parents never visited. Not once. The hospital staff offered to contact them multiple times. They refused. They wouldn't even allow my older sisters to bring me basic things: my glasses, my phone, my handheld game console, a book, anything to anchor me to the world outside the beeping machines. I was legally a minor, trapped in a system that couldn't force negligent parents to show basic humanity. So I lay there, vision a useless blur of shapes and light smears, unable to read the clock or the TV screen 2 feet away. The television had maybe 2 channels that came in clearly: infomercials and grainy reruns. No remote in reach. No way to change it. No music. No internet. No distraction except the slow drip of the 4 and the occasional nurse checking vitals. I counted ceiling tiles until my eyes burned, then counted them again. After what felt like forever, probably a week or more of that suffocating isolation, I finally got strong enough to rasp out a few words. A kind nurse brought the hospital phone to my bedside. With shaking fingers, I dialed my oldest sister's number. When she answered, I could barely get the words out. "Please, bring my glasses. Please." She didn't hesitate, but getting them wasn't simple. Our parents had hidden or locked away most of my belongings. convinced, illogically, that my sister would steal them if given the chance. She had to sneak into the house when they were out, search quietly, and slip the glasses into her bag. She brought them the next day, along with a charger and a promise that she'd keep fighting to get me out of there. When she slid the frames onto my face, the world snapped into focus for the first time in weeks. I saw the four-pole clearly, the pale green walls, the worried lines on her face. I cried, quiet, ugly sobs around the tube still in my throat. She held my hand the entire visit, promising I wouldn't be going back to that house alone. Recovery was slow. Physical therapy to rebuild muscle I'd lost. Nutrition plans to repair what starvation had wrecked. Endless talks with social workers, doctors, therapists. Eventually, I was discharged, not home, but to a safer temporary placement while the legal process crawled forward. I still carry that hospital stay like a scar inside my chest. Loud beeps make my heart race. Dark hospital corridors at night feel like they're closing in. I still wake up sometimes convinced I'm back there, paralyzed, voiceless, abandoned, and it takes several panicked seconds to remember I'm safe now. No child should ever have to learn what starvation feels like. No child should wake up in a hospital wondering if their own parents decided they weren't worth saving. But I did, and I survived it. I'm still here, louder about it now, and I will never let anyone tell me I'm not worth it again. Imagine you're deep in the triple canopy jungle of Vietnam in the late 1960s, sweat soaking through your fatigues, every leaf and vine seeming to hide eyes that watch your every move. The air is thick, humid, alive with the constant drone of insects and the distant calls of monkeys, sounds that can mask footsteps until it's too late. You're on a classified long-range patrol, miles from any friendly base, carrying equipment that could change the course of operations in the area. One wrong step, one moment of hesitation, and your small team could vanish without a trace. My father, before cancer took him, shared this exact experience with me only once, in the quiet hours near the end, his voice low and steady, as if reliving it required the same caution he used back then. He was a young Special Forces operator attached to a mixed team. Himself, another American advisor, and 5 CDG strikers, local villagers trained into fierce, irregular fighters. Their mission was straightforward but dangerous. Penetrate deep into enemy-controlled territory to plant seismic ground sensors along key infiltration trails used by North Vietnamese army units moving supplies and men southward. They'd been out for nearly 2 days, moving slowly, silently, avoiding contact. The jungle was unusually still that afternoon. No sudden bird flurries, no alarm calls, just the steady rhythm of nature. To gather better observation on a critical trail intersection, my father split off with 2 of the strikers while the rest of the patrol continued to emplace the remaining sensors farther along. The 3 of them found a good concealed position overlooking the crossing, a narrow dirt path worn by countless boots, flanked by dense undergrowth. They settled in, weapons ready, scanning for any sign of movement. Hours passed, 3, maybe 4, nothing. The sun was starting to angle lower, shadows lengthening. They debated quietly, push farther down the trail for a better vantage, or pull back to link up with the main group before dark made movement impossible. My father decided it was time to move. He checked the trail one final time through the foliage, signaled the strikers to stay low and follow his lead. He eased forward, ready to step out onto the open path. That's when he saw him, lying prone alongside the trail, just short of the intersection, was a light-skinned black soldier in full 19th century Union cavalry gear. Blue wool uniform, kepi cap, 2 holstered pistols on his belt, a Spencer repeating rifle cradled in his arms, and a short, curved club, clearly a Native American war club, tucked at his side. The man looked exactly as though he'd stepped out of a Civil War photograph, yet he was there, solid, real, in the Vietnam jungle. My father froze, brain scrambling to make sense of the impossible. Hallucination? Heat stroke? Enemy trick? Before he could react, the soldier turned his head, locked eyes directly with him, and gave a calm, knowing smile. Then he slowly raised a single finger to his lips, urging silence. With the same deliberate motion, he gestured backward, away from the trail, telling my father to retreat. Instinct took over. My father signaled his 2 strikers to hold position and melt back into the brush. As he slipped quietly into cover on one side of the path, he saw the Union soldier do the same on the opposite side, vanishing into the greenery as smoothly as if he'd never been there. Less than 10 seconds later, the lead scouts of a large NVA column emerged at the intersection, right where my father and his men would have stepped out. The patrol kept coming, 70, maybe 80 soldiers, heavily armed with AK-47s, light machine guns, RPG launchers, packs loaded for long movement. They moved with disciplined silence, crossing the open ground in a tight formation, passing within 30 feet of the hidden Americans. If my father had stepped onto that trail, if his small group had been caught in the open, there would have been no escape. No chance to fight back effectively against that kind of firepower and numbers. The entire team, sensors, patrol, all of it, would have been annihilated on the spot. As soon as the last enemy soldier disappeared down the trail, my father and the strikers moved. Fast, quiet, hearts pounding. They linked back up with the rest of the patrol without incident, finished the mission as best they could under the circumstances, and exfiltrated. Later, he reported the enemy contact accurately, the size, weapons, direction, but said nothing about the spectral soldier. He kept that part locked away, buried deep. Years passed. He carried the memory in silence until, decades later, on her deathbed in the 1970s, he finally told his grandmother the full story. She listened without surprise, eyes closed, a faint smile on her lips. When he finished, she whispered, "You saw Old Red Tom." Old Red Tom was my great-great-grandfather, a free man of mixed African and Creek heritage. During the Civil War, he served as a scout for the Union Army. After the war, he continued in the U.S. cavalry out west during the Indian campaigns. Family stories always described him as carrying exactly those weapons into battle. Twin pistols for close work, the rapid-firing Spencer rifle that gave Union cavalry such an edge, and his traditional Creek War club, a symbol of his heritage and a brutal tool in hand-to-hand fighting. My father never spoke of it again publicly. He told me only near the end, perhaps to pass on the weight of it, perhaps because some things demand to be remembered. Whether it was a genuine apparition, a guardian spirit tied to blood and courage, or something the mind conjures in moments of mortal danger, one fact remained undeniable. That impossible figure appeared at precisely the moment needed, warned him back, and saved his life and the lives of his team. In the chaos of war, where logic fails and survival hangs by threads, sometimes the past reaches forward to protect its own. My father walked out of that jungle because of it. And because he did, I'm here to tell you the story. It was a pitch-black night in late autumn, the kind where the streetlights barely pierced the fog. and every shadow feels like it's watching you. I had just finished a grueling 12-hour shift, my body aching, mind numb from the monotony. The clock on my phone read 10:03 p.m. as I boarded the last local bus home, the same route I'd taken hundreds of times without incident. The bus was nearly deserted by the time we left the city limits. Just a couple of sleepy passengers scattered in the back rows, and me near the front, staring out at the passing darkness, counting down the minutes until I could collapse into bed. About half a mile from my town, something shifted. The driver, instead of taking the familiar highway exit, veered sharply onto a narrow side road I'd never seen before. Dark, unpaved, flanked by thick bushes and overgrown fields. My stomach tightened. At first I thought maybe it was a shortcut or roadwork detour, but the longer we drove, the more wrong it felt. No streetlights, no other vehicles, just the hum of the engine and the crunch of tires on gravel. I leaned forward and called out, "Sir, why are we going this way? This isn't the usual route to town." He glanced at me in the rearview mirror, casual as anything. "My friends missed the last bus. They're waiting up ahead. I'll drop them in town too. No problem." Friends? At this hour? On a deserted back road? Every thriller movie I'd ever seen flashed through my head. Human trafficking rings, late-night abductions, drivers who help strangers ride into danger. My pulse hammered. I tried to stay calm, but my instincts screamed that this wasn't right. A few minutes later, he pulled the bus to a sudden stop beside a dense wall of bushes, the kind so thick you couldn't see 5 feet in. Engine idling, headlights cutting through the night like knives. "Why are we stopping?" I asked, voice sharper now. "Tire issue," he said, already unbuckling. "Something's caught in the wheel. Gotta check it quick." He started to step out. That's when every alarm in my body went off. I stood up, blocking the aisle. "No, turn this bus around right now. Take us back to the main road, the original route. No more shortcuts, no waiting for anyone." He paused, looking annoyed. "Relax, it'll just take a minute. My friends are coming any second. We'll wait here 15 minutes, tops. Then I fix the tire and we go." I raised my voice. I said, "Turn around. Now." He refused, repeating the same excuses. "Tire problem, friends, just wait." The road was dead silent. No headlights, no distant traffic, nothing. That's when I knew. If I stayed passive, something terrible was coming. In one swift motion, I lunged forward and snatched the keys from the ignition. He shouted, reaching for them, but I was already sliding into the driver's seat. The engine roared back to life. No flat tire, no mechanical issue. The bus had been perfectly fine. He realized I'd called his bluff. Rage twisted his face. He swung a wild punch at me. It grazed my shoulder. Adrenaline surged. I swung back, hard, connecting with his jaw. He staggered, then pulled a knife from his pocket, the blade glinting under the dashboard lights. My heart stopped. I froze, staring at the steel, mind racing. Fight, run, scream? Before I could decide, distant sirens pierced the night. Blue and red lights flickered through the bushes. I dialed emergency services the moment he stopped the bus and stepped out, quietly, phone hidden in my lap, whispering my location and the situation to the operator. They were close. Relief flooded me for half a second. Then, crack. A metal rod slammed into my back from behind. Pain exploded across my spine. I dropped to my knees, gasping. One of the friends had snuck up through the open door while we fought. The driver scrambled out, clutching his face, and the two of them bolted toward a waiting car hidden in the dark. Tires screeched as they vanished into the night. The police arrived moments later. One officer helped me up, steadying me as my legs shook. They searched the area, took my statement, examined the bus. They identified the driver through records. He'd been operating under a fake name, but he and his accomplice were gone. No arrests, not yet. The case is still open, the men still out there somewhere. I walked away bruised, shaken, but alive. That night taught me one brutal truth. Trust your gut when it screams danger, even if it means breaking every rule of politeness. Sometimes, the difference between going home and disappearing forever is nothing more than refusing to stay quiet. Imagine checking into a centuries-old hotel in the heart of St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest continuously inhabited European established settlement in the continental United States, where the walls have absorbed screams, prayers, executions, pirate raids, and every flavor of human desperation since the 1500s. You tell yourself the ghost stories are just tourist bait, that the heavy Spanish moss and narrow cobblestone streets are atmospheric, not ominous. You laugh it off as you turn the key in the lock, drop your bag, brush your teeth, and climb into the crisp white sheets of a king bed that has probably cradled hundreds of sleeping strangers over decades. You reach over, click off the last lamp, and draw the blackout curtains tight. Total darkness. Silence except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. The moment your head settles on the pillow, something changes. It isn't gradual. It's instant, like someone flipped a switch in the atmosphere. The room no longer feels empty. There is weight, intelligent, deliberate weight, occupying space that wasn't occupied a second ago. You lie perfectly still, suddenly hyper-aware of your own breathing, telling yourself it's jet lag, exhaustion, imagination. But your skin knows better. Every hair on your arms stands at attention. You turn your head toward the short hallway that leads from the door to the bedroom area. In the near total black, something is there. It isn't a person. It isn't even shaped quite like a person. It's massive, taller than the doorway, wider than any human silhouette should be, and utterly black, the kind of absolute black that seems to drink light rather than reflect it. If you've ever seen a redacted document with thick marker bars over classified faces, that's what it looked like. A solid, rectangular void standing upright. But this void had presence, awareness, intent, and it was moving, slowly, inexorably, toward the foot of your bed. Panic detonated in your chest. You tried to sit up. Nothing. Arms pinned by invisible straps. Legs leaden, useless. You opened your mouth to scream. Nothing but a strangled wheeze that didn't even reach your own ears. Your heart slammed against your ribs so violently you were sure it would burst. Then, impossibly, it seemed to slow, stutter, almost stop. A cold certainty flooded you. This is how I die. Alone, in silence, suffocated by something that has no name. You couldn't look away from it. The shape kept advancing, growing larger in your field of vision, blotting out what little ambient light leaked under the door. Your mind raced through every horror cliché: demon, shadow person, residual haunting, but none of them felt adequate. This thing felt personal. It felt like it had been waiting. Then, without warning, a new sensation cut through the terror. A steady, gentle stream of cool air brushing across your face. Not the stale hotel AC, not a draft from the vents. This was deliberate, focused, like someone standing close enough to kiss your forehead was softly exhaling, soothing, protective. The cold air moved in a perfect line from your hairline down to your chin, then back up again. The moment it touched you, the paralysis broke like a snapped thread. You didn't feel yourself lose consciousness. One second you were staring at the black monolith looming over the bed. The next, you were gone. Morning sunlight stabbed through a crack in the curtains. You woke with a violent start, sheets twisted around you, heart still hammering. The clock read 9:47 a.m. You were supposed to be at a meeting across town at 9 o'clock. Your phone was dead on the nightstand. For a long moment you just lay there, staring at the empty room. The ordinary furniture, the innocent sunlight painting stripes on the carpet. The hallway was empty. No black shape, no oppressive weight. Just a normal, slightly musty hotel room. But your body remembered. Every muscle trembled. Your throat felt raw even though you hadn't made a sound. You couldn't stay in that room another minute. You threw clothes on, grabbed your things, and marched to the front desk, still shaking, demanding a room change. No explanation, just, "I can't stay here." The clerk didn't argue. She'd probably heard stranger requests in a building that old. They moved you to a newer wing on a higher floor. You spent the rest of the day in a fog, jumping at shadows, checking corners, barely able to focus on work. That was the only time sleep paralysis ever touched you. Not before, not since. You've read the clinical explanations: REM sleep intrusion, stress, sleep position, brain misfiring, but none of them account for the sheer malevolence of that shape, or the uncanny timing of the cool breath that pulled you back from the edge. You choose to believe, quietly, privately, that something else was in the room that night. Something that saw the darkness approaching and decided you weren't finished yet. A guardian, maybe. A counterforce. Whatever it was, it won. The shadow retreated, and you woke up. You still avoid ground floor rooms in historic hotels. You leave a small nightlight plugged in when you travel alone. And every once in a while, lying in the dark, you catch yourself listening. Not for footsteps, but for the softest exhale of cool air against your skin. Just in case. Because this thing happened with me.